Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aligning with Purpose, a podcast where we explore themes of finding your true purpose, from quitting corporate, moving cities, practicing holistic health, and more. Join me as we discover our purposes together. My name is Juli, and I'm so happy you're here. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you,
Hello.
Julie.
I'm so excited to have you. I am just excited to chat more with you since our meeting story is also interesting that I want to get into. But before I dive into that, I'd love to properly introduce Amanda, our guest speaker today. Amanda Crater is a writer and freelance consultant with a rich career trajectory spanning three different fields over the course of the past 20 years in corporate, entrepreneurship, hospitality, and dance and fitness. She lives in Huntington Beach, California, and has worked in finance, public relations, and journalism off and on since graduating from UC Berkeley in 2004. She has also supported herself in hospitality, dance, and fitness, and moved to Hawaii solo at the age of 32 for 5 years. She has an 8-year-old son named Jackson, who she describes as the love and light of her life. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, thank you. Well said.
I'm so excited to have you here. Before we get into the meat of the podcast and to get to know you more, I do a beauty and humanity segment where we talk about something beautiful that happened in our week, or it can be your month. I'd love to hear something from your week, the beauty and humanity. Yeah, I'll give you the floor.
I think mine might be a little bit shallow, I'm not gonna lie. And it made me feel good though. I had to think about it for a while. I'm like, what was the moment? And it was not like a baby getting a bunny. It was like this guy parked next to me at Bagel Mania. It was really crowded. And so I was like, maybe if I go in, it'll be faster. So I park, and this guy parks next to me, and he like slams into my door. At first, I was like, "What the hell?" And then I was like, I just softened, and I said to him like, "Hey, look at my car. No worries. Are you okay? Do you want me to move?" He's like, "No, it's fine. Look at my car. I don't care." So we were both basically like, "No, you can slam into my car. No, you can slam into my car. We just want bagels."
No, that's not shallow at all. I think I don't know about you, but when I have been driving in a car, you almost feel like that's you don't have your identity. I've healed a lot of my road rage, but when I was younger, I definitely had this like shield that I had when I was in my car. So those things come out of you, but the fact that you're able to just take that moment and be like, "You know what? It's all good." That's like actually a really beautiful thing because it's hard to sometimes separate, your humanity when it comes to your car.
Well, that's kind of a good segue a little bit actually, because like the way that I've always valued traditional like emblems of success, for example, like a car or a house or marks that we should have by this point. Like I love my car, Sally. I call her Sally, and
I love that.
little old Kia, like 2014, dented up. It's like a bumper car for me. Like I admit I'm not good at driving, but what is the point of the vehicle? It's to do a certain function. So for me, like having those moments of road rage and like, oh, is my car nice enough? People get mad, a little scratched and stuff. I'm like, hey, are we safe? Are we all just traveling? We're not on horses anymore.
No, exactly. I don't know when the shift happened for me, but I definitely there was something where I was like, "You know what? It's really not worth it to be so upset over." Of course, if it's like a big accident, you want to, make sure that there's fairness in like how it's being handled, but when
Right.
it's like small things, I think it's like, okay, like our safety is also more important than getting angry. So I'll share my beauty and humanity moment from the week. So I work at a restaurant and I have a lot of guests coming in, and on a lunch shift, it's pretty slow. So I get the chance to interact with the guests more. And a mom and her son came in for lunch one day, and I just loved seeing their interaction and her as a mom. And it just gave me so much hope for all the young moms out there. She wasn't like my age, but her son was probably 6 or 7, and she was probably in her 40s, and she was just the most nurturing mom out there. The way she cared about him, and she was playing with, like, the new toys that she had, and, like, she was so present, and I think every child deserves such a present mom that cares about them so much, and seeing that was healing for me. I mean, I had great parents and my mom and my dad were also very present, but just seeing that from a lens from me being an adult now was one of those like small but really beautiful moments. And
Yeah.
finding those moments in my week, I like do cherish that because then it'll make me see the world from like a better lens, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man, that one hits home actually, because I took my son out last night. Like like my budget's pretty tight and everything, but we were just walking and I have him 4 nights a week and he's 8. And I was just, he didn't have his phone for once, thank goodness. But we went out together and I just felt like I'm like, I don't care how much money this costs. I just dote on him and love him. And I do think like I had good parents and I do have good parents, but like I was like in my room playing with porcelain dolls like my entire childhood or taking care of all my younger brothers. So that one is a nice moment in humanity, particularly because just last night I had dinner with my son.
I love seeing you as a mom and seeing, all the moms out there doing just being such a great caretaker and support for their kids. So I hope we can all take a moment to think about a moment from our weeks that we see beauty in humanity. And if it's not humanity that week, it can just be any life form in the animals around you, life all around us. And I hope everyone can have a good week. I do want to start off our podcast by talking about how we met. And I love this story so much. So, Amanda, I'd love for you to share the story about how you discovered the podcast.
So I was having a total like manic meltdown at work the month of mental health month in October. And I have mental illness. That's a big part of my story, I guess. Anyways, long story short, I was melting down at work. I was manic. I was off my meds. I was like overwhelmed, my personal life, everything. And I was just escaping. I felt like everything I was doing was so like wrong. It was like resonating at a level that was too intense for me. So I was on a afternoon rollerblade and I was just like, I don't feel right. I feel off. Everything's off. And I said, Siri, give me a podcast that I need right now. Something like that. I don't remember what the exact prompt was, but it's basically like, Dear Universe, please guide me with something right now because I am freaking out. And like, basically, I was trying to like self regulate and I prayed for Siri to find me something that would help. And I came to your Aligning with Purpose podcast. It was the one about moving from like corporate to hospitality. I never listened to podcasts before. I don't even know what podcasts are. I didn't even know that a podcast is filmed
Oh, no
until like
way.
5 minutes before. Yes. Like, yeah. And so I found your podcast by just literally querying Siri for a podcast I could listen to that would resonate with what I'm going through in life.
No, I think it's incredible because I had only started, I think you reached out when I was on episode 4 or something. So it was still very, very new. It's still very new. The fact that Siri put my podcast when I have zero marketing out there, I need to work on the SEO of this podcast, but the fact that it showed it to you, it feels like it was more than just Siri working. Like the universe was,
Sure.
wanting us to meet. And I think that's the beauty of what happened. And I'm so grateful that we're connected now. One, I'm grateful that that one podcast episode was able to help you, but I'm also really grateful that this connection was able to happen from this. And I do want everyone to know like Amanda has such an amazing life history and so far. And her journey from where she was and where she is now and her starting her own PR agency, she's done a lot. Like you've done so much. And I do want to start off by kicking us off with talking about a little bit about your background and where you grew up, what your adolescent years were like, and I guess the beginning of who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. You know, I have to say, it's so nice that like I feel like I reached out to you and I sent you my blog and then you read it and you were interested and you responded. And this is like a life theme I'm now grappling with. Like I feel like at 43-ish, it's kind of like you're either gonna go the way you've always gone and repeat all the patterns, or it's your chance to like level up and be like, okay, the next 2 decades. It's like the 20s of the 40s. Like,
Mhm.
so my 50s and 60s is basically when I think I would be making it. So I've always wanted to live for kind of other people, I guess, in a way. Like, my last name is Crater, my maiden name Crater. Like, and I would say, like, the moon, like a big impact. So, like, from the early, basically elementary school, I grew up in Huntington. I was born in New York, grew up in Huntington, I would say half redneck, half Jew. Because my mom is like Holocaust survivor and my dad, they're like Oklahoma, like so I was always like the weirdo kid. Not weird, but I loved school. Like me first, like front of the class, raise a hand, everything. I love school. I love school. I love school. I love to learn. Please praise me, give me attention, let me do well. And I did great. And then I started to get into high school and then like I love to learn, but what we were learning was so disturbing to me that I was like, how are we all just sitting here like taking tests on this, like the Holocaust, like the Native Americans, like, and it was very disturbing for me as a child to just hear the actual history of society. And then the institutional part of school was also weird. It was like I wrote a column in high school called "You Know the Drill" because I worked at Huntington High School, which is the HB Oilers. And Huntington Beach is known, if anyone doesn't know, Huntington Beach, California is like quite a cultural place. It's Surf City, USA. It's huge. It was an oil town. It was all oil, and now it's like a surf place. It's a huge tourist, but like Trump town, USA. So here I am, like Little Miss Berkeley. We should vote, and my parents were just like, "Oh my god, can you just like be normal, not come to Thanksgiving and like rant?" So I never fit in. Grew up in Huntington Beach. Felt like it was like definitely not the vibe for me.
You mentioned that you were not invited to your family's Thanksgiving, right? So when was that and how old were you?
2003, 22.
And this was because you didn't align with what was the
You know,
spark of them?
yeah, good question, and I really appreciate that, like the reflective part of that because yes, so growing up here thinking everything was like be the president if you want, blah blah blah. But then I go to college in 2000 at Berkeley, and the first thing we do is the Bush Gore election, which was like it was like a fiasco, and it's basically like, oh, the popular vote, like everyone actually voted for him, and it was just the whole thing. The whole Gore election thing was like a fiasco for me. That was disillusioning. Then 2 years into it, 9/11 happened. It was my sophomore year, landline, purple phone. I remember my mom called me. She's like, "Do you know what's happening? Planes are running into the World Trade Center. My family's in New York." Like it was
Mm.
surreal. So like that whole thing just shook my perspective on life. And yeah, so after 9/11 happened, I was basically like, oh my God, the world's so fucked up. Like, mom, I just want to come home for Thanksgiving and just be like, you can't be here. Like, it's too much. So I leave. Yeah, I'm in the parking lot, driving, I was like crying. And I end up going to my friend Heidi's house and like we're dancing around and like whatever. It turned out okay. But like that has been every year.
So was 9/11 the year that your family was like, "Okay, maybe you should stay home for Thanksgiving?"
Yeah, it was, well, I think it was so September 11th, 2001, sophomore year of college. It changed everything. I was basically like, my mentality was this. I heard learn about the Holocaust. We were Holocaust survivors. And I said, oh my God, how did nobody do anything? How could have history happened and nobody was like, hello? So it stuck with me in my head. I thought, well, if I'm on this planet, I will be that person. In my time and era, if anybody does shit like the Holocaust, I will say something. And I feel like that's what's going on with the environment. So I've always been trying to make an impact.
So for you, you have always been vocal about the bad things that are happening in our society, whether that's environmental to humanity, and that made the people around you uncomfortable, whether that was your family, your classmates, your professors. That was kind of you feeling outcasted throughout your
Yeah.
early childhood, right?
Just like people don't want to be disturbed. It was too much. Like it's like, yeah, it didn't make anyone comfortable, you know? But it wasn't just like negative. It was also like, okay, this is really fucked up, but we could like form little pods and committees and we can like go put flyers for the Amazon. I did all that stuff like for the rainforest and fern gully. Like we have solutions too. And that was just kind of dismissed. It was either like, okay, yeah, just get a real job or shush and like don't be disturbing and pass the potatoes.
When you felt so, I don't know if rejected is the right word, but when you felt so
Alienated.
your light was dimmed when you
Yes.
were trying to do the right thing and to speak up against the bad things that are happening, and advocate for underrepresented communities or even environmentally. How did that make you feel, and do you feel like that has affected you today?
That's a really good question. Yes, I have a kind of personality where it's like the more you tell me not to do something or I can't do something or it's like whatever, the more you discourage me, the more like I will show you, yes, actually, oh, you don't want me at Thanksgiving? I will just go like make a flash mob that doesn't exist yet. So anyways, I was basically like, fine, no one's listening to me anyways. I'm totally having a meltdown. I'm like literally like going for a run at Berkeley, like on the trail. I would like lay down and just bawl in the dirt. That's how bad it was. So my attitude was basically like, all right, well, like I'll just try to figure out my own way. And so after September 11th happened, I was on a full like, okay, I'm gonna get straight A's. I'm gonna be a journalist. I wrote for the newspaper. I was busting my ass at the newspaper, doing all these classes. And that happened. And I was also taking dance. And then that happened. And I was like, you know what? who cares? The world could be gone tomorrow. I'm not going to sit here and stay at the newspaper until midnight. I'm going to go take an extra dance class and dance every day. So it totally changed my entire like life trajectory.
What I'm understanding is that you felt like you had a lot of love to give in the world, and as you coming into this world, you wanted to advocate for people, environment, and etc. And feeling shoved down, you found different escapes like dance and
Mhm.
fitness. We're going to get to that next because I know you did have a career in dance and fitness as well. But I do want to stay on the line of identity and talk about your family surviving the Holocaust because I know we touched on that. So, how has this history informed your personal values in life? I know that's probably a very heavy question.
Actually, wow, I'm really very touched that you would ask that. Individually, we inherit these like pain bodies of history that come from our families in our own personal family life, and then like culturally beyond. Like, I saw your podcast about racism. It's really good. So, anyways, that question is really important because I was always very much a Jewish identity, and it was know that basically my mom, her mom, was in Poland during the whole thing, and like she would tell stories. I remember the stories like the rats like in their gutter and in like they were in the sewer and the rats and like all these stories that we learned very gnarly. And I wrote a report on it in eighth grade. I like interviewed her. I got all the details and I wrote everything down. And I always felt very much like a historian, kind of like an archivist. Like I have an obligation or like not obligation, but almost a calling to document the history of the family, her story, the dolls. I still have the dolls that she actually played with against the like Gestapo children and stuff to like convince them. Like she escaped because they came and found her and they're like, oh, like she couldn't be Jewish because they were playing German dolls and killing the Jews. And so she was
Mhm.
acting like she was very resilient. So it was only her and her sister and her mom that survived. The whole other family, everybody. So when I learned about that stuff in high school, I was so disturbed, not even on a personal level, just in general as a human. And they would have us watch it. We would watch videos of the bodies and everything. And it was like, I knew that was my family. So it was very like shaping because like I told you, almost like Joan of Arc, I felt like you did not come to this planet for no reason. My bloodline has like survived all of this, and my calling on this planet is not to just go fax paperwork for some business company. Like, but I did not come to this planet just to survive and just to like do what everybody does. I came because my fucking ancestors, like, were all almost murdered. And if I'm going to be on this planet and stuff like that's going to go down, somebody has to say something. So here I am at the turn of the century, 20 years old, 18 years old, 2018, going to Berkeley. Technology is just changing. We go from textbooks to now like the internet. Like we barely even use the internet in high school, and now it's like everything's at the fingertips. So the Holocaust is like nothing. Holocaust is nothing. No one even knows what it is really anymore. There's a million other things that are atrocities and Native Americans and internment camps, and it's not just me uniquely that bad things have happened, but the idea is kind of like as a human being on this planet in this lifetime, and I don't know if I believe in reincarnation or not, but I just feel like in my last name Crater, make an impact, make a mark, stand up against it.
Thank you for sharing your story about your family history, about the Holocaust, because the sad thing is we think that history isn't going to repeat itself, but especially now, it's pretty evident that there are things that are repeating itself and that history is cyclical. And until, as humanity as a whole, we learn to, I guess, heal ourselves, like things are going to continue to pop up, the terrible atrocities by pop up. But I think it's really important for us to document and talk about it, even if it's not happening directly to us. That's when you have the most power to be able to talk about it and to make sure that you're speaking up and making sure you're doing everything that's in your power to, well, yeah, make sure these things don't happen. So I really appreciate you sharing your story. I know it's very vulnerable to share the story, especially like when you're in a classroom setting and they're sharing the Holocaust in videos, and you feel deeper connection to that because that is your family, and that is traumatizing. One, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that story.
Yeah. I do think what school is right now is a waste of time so far. They're just trying to make them conform to be like little corporate automatons that work 40 hours a week doing for somebody else. And I think the learning part of school right now, what children should be doing is one, spending time with their families, and also learning history. They should be learning their family history. There's this beautiful little window, a bridge, when we still have alive these older people and we have these tech savvy youth who aren't completely jaded or traumatized by the world that they're growing up in, but they are growing up in a world that we don't know how to teach them how to live in. And like if we can consciously determine like where we're putting our energy and our time, which is the whole point of aligning with purpose to me, is what is the point of your morning or your afternoon or your day or your week or your month or your life? What is the point of sending my child to a school every day for 18 years if
Hmm.
what they're going to teach them is going to be irrelevant? Or, like, I just feel like it's so important to invest our time and attention into like personally valuable, like real shit that's not desensitized, like, or just like prescribed. Like if you have it comfortable, you'll just do whatever for the most part, I feel like.
I know you touched on what aligning with purpose means to you, and I want to dig deeper there. For you, how do you define success then? Because I know we're talking about how, schooling and all of that too. How do you define success, and what does purpose mean to you, that specific word?
I have this whole series called Relatively Responsible that I write. I think of these situations. There's these perspectives of success that matter just to me. And so in my life, I'm like, am I enjoying my health? Am I good in my body? Do I have good relationships with my family? Am I stressed out? I have a certain activities I like to do every day: pool, rollerblading, writing in my journal, whatever it is. But like, did I get my bases covered? Is there balance? It's not, but like on paper right now, I could look terrible. Oh, I'm living with my mom. I'm on my second divorce. I can't do the same thing every day all the time. Like I have to kind of go through ups and downs and chaos and break and rebuild and all of that. So when it comes to me for success, I feel very successful. 43 years old, I went to college. I had my first love. I moved to Hawaii. I worked in finance. I worked in restaurants. I went through a whole pool era. I'm fine with aging. So I'm getting grades and I'm good with that. And I think that's a really important measure of success. How do you feel about yourself in the current moment? Do you feel like it's okay to be getting older? Do you feel like it's okay that are you okay today? So today I am okay. I feel pretty good about it. But successfully wise, success, what does it look like? It's basically like, do you have your basic needs met? And are you able to grow as a human being? And maybe even if you're really good at it, contribute to the planet.
I love hearing everyone's definition of success because I think it's truly defined by each individual themselves, and it's only meant to be defined by you for you to not take on other people's definition. I think it's really beautiful that you're seeing success from the bigger picture of what makes us happy, and aging is beautiful because all those things are things that we need to be focusing more on because it feels less ego based and more less
Yeah.
identity where you're more human. So I appreciate your perspective on success.
I'm like successful in my mind if I'm okay with not being successful. To me, it's acceptance is a thing. On paper, I could look the worst right now compared to all my brothers. I was the one that went to Berkeley. I was the one that was never Oiler of the Year and thought everyone and they were like failing and blah blah. Now they all have houses, kids, jobs, everything. I'm in my second divorce. I am dealing with mental illness. I'm dealing with addiction. I'm dealing with relationship issues. Like I am dealing with all kinds of stuff that on paper make me look maybe so successfully wise. It's like maybe a black sheep. However, my final vision of success is basically this: when you're in a nursing home and you're laying on your bed one day, you have nothing to do because your body's too old and you can't do anything. Are you gonna sit there and watch TV, or are you gonna sit there and replay all of the crazy things you lived through in moments of your life? That's my vision of success. Do I have to watch TV when I'm old in a bed, or can I just listen to my memories?
Thank you for sharing that. And then how about aligning with purpose? I know you touched on it a little bit more or a little bit earlier, but I'd love to hear more what aligning with purpose means to you.
The first thought that comes to my mind is time and like the way that I look at time and time. Okay, so neurodivergence. I will say I have multiple diagnoses and I've been to psych ward twice for 6 days in 2021, and I have bipolar and autism and extreme ADHD and apparently schizophrenia, blah, 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 in the last, like, since 2021. So when I say time, I guess what is the idea that time is linear. So when my mental health stuff, my brain just works differently. It's not that it's a disorder. I have a huge problem with the idea that, like, it's a disorder to be medicated, and, like, no, we just all need to kind of, like, recalibrate to a system where, like, people who work like this with my crazy brain can work with your different brain and be better than the sum of our parts, kind of thing. So I never doubted what my life would be like. I always knew I'll live in Hawaii. I always knew I'll have a kid. I always knew I'd be an author and this and that and that. And I still know there's certain things that are going to happen. But I just have this, like, intuition of purpose that, like, if I don't divert too much from it, this is what's going to happen because this is why I'm here. And when my son had eye cancer when he was 8 years old, 8 months old, he had eye cancer. And it was like 2 days worth of knowing that until it was removed and they had to remove his eye. But when they told me that, I not for a second thought he's going to die. I thought he is on this planet for a reason. And there's no way that he's going down like this. This is just going to make part of his story. And I never doubted it. I just knew. That was a purpose. So I guess the answer to the question is this: it's like, I judge success on how much I can intuitively align with the purpose that I know I'm here to do. Whatever that freaking vision looks like to everybody else, whatever the success looks like on paper, I could be homeless on the streets. I might be successful if I, like, stopped the rainforest from getting cut down or something.
Thank you for being vulnerable with that and for your realness because I think it's easy to have a conversation like by defining success as, oh, I make this amount of money, or I have this job and this title, or I'm married with kids and I bought a home. Like, there's so many ways where we mask different types of success. And I agree with you in that I do see that everyone has their specific purposes here, and it just feels so raw and human to be like, okay, maybe this person is homeless, but they are doing X, Y, and Z to save the rainforest. Like, I don't know if there's someone out there like that, but like I like that example because everyone just has a different purpose and it doesn't have to be so linear like we see it.
But you know what's weird, Julie? I don't think that most people think about this or care or really, if you were to ask them. And that's okay. It doesn't, I don't, if everyone had a very, like, rigid purpose that they had to come do, like, it might be too intense for this lifetime, but I do feel like there is a segment of people that do feel connected or called to think about it. And at the same time, there's a lot of people that don't have to go in that outside your comfort zone where it's like, I'm not, like, I'm miserable at a corporate job. I'm not, most people could just be like, okay, like, it's tolerable. I got a 401k, blah blah blah. I don't love it, blah blah blah. But I'm like fluorescent lighting. I have to commute. Like, I'll freak out. But if you ask them what their purpose is, it's not necessarily, well, I want to, like, make a mark against, like, and it doesn't mean that that's less valuable in any way, shape, or form. It's not. I
Mhm.
just think the question of, like, who on this earth right now is feeling aligned enough to find a way to make our current decade that we're in something different. Like, I don't want to conform. I don't want to just go along with all of this, like, so I just feel really special to be called to you because I think that just to even have the blessing to think that you're here with a purpose beyond just survival, I feel like it's such a privilege. Like, I'm realizing
Yeah.
right now in this conversation, just, like, to even think about it and to even have the opportunity to consider what your purpose is. And, like, everyone does, but it's just really cool that we could connect and, like, talk about it.
I do want to transition to talking about your career. And you had a very broad range of things that you did, and it's amazing to see. And at a young age, you founded your own PR agency. So, starting off after you graduated, you were a UCLA program coordinator, and then you had various roles in writing, communication roles, public relations, journalism, investor relations, marketing, and grant writing. Tell me a little bit in, I guess, your own words, what your early career was like and your journey from graduating college up until maybe starting founding your own PR agency.
Yeah. I was gung ho on being a journalist. I would go interview my neighbors when I was a kid. And in elementary school, I wrote, we had a newspaper. And like the first day of college, I had an article in the paper front page. Like I was like, yes, I'm going to be, what did I call her? Leslie Stahl. Yeah, she's a CNN reference. But so like very much all about, I have a career that I want to do. I want to do journalism. I love talking to people. I love telling stories. I love history. It's rough draft of history, like all these things. So after college, I graduated, and then a month later, I'm living at my dad's, and I'm like starting an internship with OC Register, and he's like, I got a mail, and it was like, oh, like you didn't actually get your degree. Your thesis is incomplete, and you must rewrite it to have your degree. And it sucks because like all the other degrees, you don't have to have an honors thesis, this 50-page paper. You could just graduate by taking classes. So there was like a year after graduating. It was like my find myself year. I started working for this after school kids thing because I always like kids and dance. So I started doing that. I worked for my aunt. I had like 3 jobs and I worked at a restaurant. I was basically like hustling and living in LA for a year after graduating, trying to rewrite my thesis, being like, I thought it was going to be successful by now, but clearly I don't even. So that happened for a year. And then I worked my way into finding a couple good jobs, and I got my good nonprofit job as a marketing coordinator, and I got my finance job in investor relations in LA. There were 2 to 3 years where I was working in LA. They were right up the street at UCLA and CCG Investor Relations. They were like right up the street from each other. So I got CCG Investor Relations first, and then I got the program coordinator at UCLA because one of the kids that I taught at the after school thing, her mom would always come in, and I knew her, and I was like, I'm trying to like not change diapers anymore. Like I wasn't changing diapers.
And then so after these 2 roles, I remember you mentioned a layoff. When did the layoff happen, and how did that affect your identity at the time?
So 2008, I think I had this job for like a year and a half, 2 years maybe. It was called CCG Investor Relations. It was this big high rise on Wilshire in LA. And I managed to get myself starting in as like a little consultant, and then I got a full time job there. So I worked there for a year and a half. I wore a pantsuit. I was like Mrs. Corporate. I would come in early. I would stay late. I worked on weekends. I did presentations. They gave me multiple titles. They started laying people off though because of finance. It was 2009, and we were finance people. We were putting companies on we're doing their IPOs, we're doing everything. Like, so basically our whole industry just like tanked, and they started laying off everybody. And I thought I was safe because they would lay off other people and give me their jobs. So I had like 3 job titles. I was media relations specialist, branding specialist, and financial writer. And I was doing the job of 3 people, and I thought they'll never lay me off now. And then basically like one day they're just call me in and they're like, sorry, we're laying you off. And I had just got an apartment, beautiful apartment in Sunset Beach. So I basically stole all their clients and did it on my own. And it actually, I ended up making a lot of money and working for like a year and a half doing my own thing. Took a couple of their clients. It wasn't shady. I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't illegal. But basically the clients were like, oh, well, if you're not going to be our person anymore, we don't want to work with them. I was like, well, you can work with me.
How did you feel like the layoff impacted your identity, or were you like, "Okay, I can do it on my own?" Did you have, like, a lot imposter syndrome?
Yeah, actually, I'm like super grateful it happened because I feel like if that did not happen, I would have gone straight to like Hillary Clinton haircut. Just would have been like Barbara in like my 40s. I would have just done whatever they said. I would have been Mrs. Corporate. I would have succeeded on their ladder, and I would be happy because I would be successful. But that's not the life I wanted ever. So I honestly felt when that happened, I felt relieved. I felt divine intervention. I felt inspired. I felt that I had a niche finally because I had like created one at that company. I had started taking all the alternative energy clients. So I was like, well, I want to like save the environment. I'm going to only do green companies. And so honestly, it was a blessing. Like if that didn't happen, I definitely think it disillusioned me though with any idea of like you can trust in the man. I never trust the man. But there's no corporate company that's going to have your back. As much as they like you and love you and care about you and all of that shit, they're like not going to pay your bills when it comes down to like profit margins.
You started your own PR agency after that, and you focused on sustainability. How old were you when you started?
I was 28, I think.
Did you feel like you had imposter syndrome, or if you did, how did you get over it? And yeah, I think it's just incredible that you started at such an early age.
That's the imposter syndrome thing is this. It wasn't even that I had imposter syndrome. It was more like back in that time, I just didn't know what I could do. I am an ideas person, and I'm learning this now. And this is where I'm trying to like realign my career so that I can focus on what I'm good at. But you don't like it's all about transferable skills. If you did something
Mhm.
in this industry or you know these like skill sets, you could adapt to any client or project or thing that fits. So that's what I'm trying to. It's all about that alignment.
What are some of the things that you learned in like the first 6 months of your entrepreneurship while you were building out this PR agency?
So the balance between personal and professional like time, like the amount of solitude, I think was something that I started to learn about at that point. Was like I had my own company and then I had my own personal stuff. I just left this husband. So it's basically like it was me. Like I was working at home alone. I would start drinking wine by myself. I had no one to like guide me. I had no colleagues. I had no mentors. I had an ex-husband that was assaulting me, like my character, and boredom of friends. So that point of life is just started to make a negative turning point for me. Like, and so I started drinking a lot. But yeah, it was basically like personal life addiction. Um, and love, those things kind of interfere with career sometimes, or not interfere, but they all like weave together.
We're talking about you signing this apartment and then starting your company around that same time. For you, how has your mental health or like how did your mental health play
I get what you're
into
going for. You want the theme of mental health with career, and like how did that kind of it's a good question. So when I was right around the time I had Jackson, I forgot how it came up. We started doing family therapy and it was like mid 30s, and somehow it came up about how I didn't finish my thesis and something else I had described. I don't know how this therapist like got to me, but somehow like offhand, it was brought to my attention that I might have ADHD and didn't really pursue it too much. But then my son got diagnosed with autism, and when I started learning about autism when he was 2 and I was 37, I was like, oh, that's a thing. Like that makes so much sense. Like no, I'm like that. Like everything he did, it made sense to me. I never thought it was strange. And then learning some of it, I very much identified. So I was like, let me get the test. So I got all these tests, and I got like off the charts ADHD, moderate autism, and then I went crazy a couple times, and I got a couple other diagnoses. And when I learned the way my brain works with ADHD, it's just I don't know. There's so much stigma, I guess. Okay, and then
Mhm.
everyone with ADHD, they say like, oh, like, or if you say you have it, they're like, oh, like everyone has a little ADHD. I'm like, oh, really? Try having 45 mental tabs open at all times while having a conversation, and then tell me what time is Wednesday. And when I learned about that, it made me understand and be kinder on myself why my thesis wasn't done in
Mhm.
time, even though I cared so much. So this is ADHD. So I've learned that my mental conditions with ADHD has affected my work. The bipolar part and the manic or the episodes I had, like I think those had a lot to do with personal stuff and still struggling with that now, but I have learned to be authentic about it, and it's very risky. Like this whole time we started talking, it was like mental health month at work, and I was kind of losing it a little bit anyways, and I was off my meds a little bit, and I just like let it out and just was authentic with my boss, with everybody. And here's the thing, mania and bipolar grandiosity, it's just a symptom. But I told you, I said my whole life, I felt like I'm called to do something. I feel like I have a purpose. I'm going to leave a mark. And every time I get manic or whatever, like I get all these ideas. I get great ideas. I get inspired, and then I get the inspiration hangover, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like I need help. Like it's like not a problem. Like we need to destigmatize it. And instead of saying like, oh, well, it's a disorder and you need to fix it so you can function, it should be like, you know what? It's a gift and you should recalibrate so we can all like elevate together, because I could help these people and they could help me. And it's not about like individual silos of success and like me and my trajectory and my career and this and that. Like,
Thank you for sharing all this because I know it takes a lot of courage to be able to share your story, especially when it's so personal to you. And you've done it in such an authentic way and to be able to share something that has a lot of stigma. So, thank you for sharing. And I do agree, like, we shouldn't be placed in a box. And when people don't understand something, they tend to like run away or shy away or get like, you know, put their walls up. And that's not a way that we should be addressing things. So I do appreciate you coming here, authentically sharing your story and how your mental health has impacted your life, your career, and other aspects of your life. Because I think there is beauty in being able to authentically share our human experiences and share that to the world.
Nobody really understands mental illness. They don't understand a lot of things. I'm only learning about mental illness because I have it, so I have to read the books and go through the process and da da da. And I'm not trying to make it be somebody else's syllabus to learn about. But the point is, it's very rare and very refreshing to find people out there that see your light and like want to help. Like my boss, Christiana, like she's the only person I've ever encountered in my professional life who's been just like sees me. Like she just, anyways, I'm like this. I'm not cut out. I'm not polished. I'm not professional. I'm fucking vulnerable. I'm weird. I'm mentally ill and all the things. But I'm smart and I care. And I care so much about what I'm doing in my time that I don't want to like waste mine or anyone else's.
I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing your story. I know it's not easy to be this vulnerable and to share parts about yourself that people don't understand. And I think you have a lot of, like you said, beauty and light. And that's, so important to share to the world. And I'm so grateful that I got to chat with you and you're able to come on to Aligning with Purpose because it's important to me. And I'm really grateful that we were connected through Siri. I want to make sure you get a chance to also share your stuff as well. So, where can listeners find you if you want to plug your social media?
Releasing a memoir. It's called And Then dot dot dot. And I have a blog. It's called amandacrater.wordpress.com. My platform essentially, I will be releasing little multimedia experiences, segments of my memoir. The memoir, darling. The one where I married the husband when I was 23 and it wouldn't work out. The one where I had addiction and left my corporate job and all the fun stories that you've heard about today. We got voice memos, we got journal excerpts, we got social media posts, we got something the world's never seen. So I'm gonna start releasing that on amandacrater.wordpress.com.
I will share the link down in the show notes to your website and your blog so everyone has access to that. I'm really excited to see, yeah, the memoir come out, and I'm excited to see all the things on the website because it's all exciting stuff. So I'm gonna close this session out. I know, thank you so much for spending all this time with us today. And if you haven't subscribed to Aligning with Purpose, please do so on Spotify, your favorite podcast platforms, or on YouTube if you want the video version. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram, and it's at Julioshi, JuliYoshi, or aligningwithpurpose.pod. So those are my platforms. And if you haven't left a rating or review and you enjoy this podcast, please support me. I'm so grateful for all the support so far. And thank you for coming on, Amanda. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm so grateful
Oh
for
my God, I
this
love
connection.
you. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.